Welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Arsenault. With us on this episode is Matt Cameron from Provincial Woodworkers. We talk about the commercial millwork trade and its challenges, AMAC, the Atlantic chapter of Architectural Woodwork Manufacturers Association of Canada, Provincial Woodworkers' backstory, past and current projects, and more. Hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back. I have Matt Cameron with me today. Very grateful to have you here, Matt, with Provincial Woodworkers. Matt's the sales manager with Provincial Woodworkers. He's been there since the company started 16 years ago. Matt's also the vice president with AMAC, the Atlantic chapter, and I think former president of Minor Football Association. We'll add that in there for a little personal context. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so just tell us a little bit about yourself, family life, and sort of outside of work, and then we'll just dive into Provincial Woodworkers.
Yeah, so single dad of 2 kids. Have been working at Provincial Woodworkers, like I say, since we started. Started off from the nitty gritty, driving the truck to pushing the broom, to manufacturing, to the sales side, to the marketing side, to everything else that's involved with a small business. You kind of wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, for sure. We love having people on the show that have kind of took their journey right from the shop floor or the construction site floor right to the upper part of management. And I think that always speaks to the ambition that our guests have, and they have that experience, and the guys sort of respect them more just from the journey that they've taken. It means a lot to the site workers and the.
Yeah, you get to appreciate all sides of what the struggles are from day-to-day challenges, because you've either seen them or have been involved with them or have helped resolve them. So it kind of helps give you perspective when you've done all levels of the work.
Yeah, for sure. It's like stuff you can't. You only get that from experience, and you can't get it from a book. So, yeah, Matt, let's just dive into Provincial Woodworkers. I mean, you guys have a great name here in Atlantic, Canada, and done many big projects. And so, yeah, maybe just tell us a little bit about the operations. You're saying you have your install crew, you have your manufacturing side, and that's what really makes the woodwork companies in this industry different from a lot of sub-trades, right? I mean, a lot of sub-trades are just installing and they're buying their material, markup, and that's how it goes. But you guys have so much more depth and complexity with your operations.
Yeah, so we have 16 manufacturing employees that work in the shop, either manufacturing or finishing, including our truck drivers, and we have about 6 guys who do installations just purely on site. But we buy from raw product, sheet goods, board goods, and manufacture the casework in-house, finish it, then deliver, then have the installation component. We're fully automated, so we have one currently installing a second CNC machine today that will give us a good advantage of what the product that we can push through, and the larger projects make much more manageable to take on.
You said you had two people that are full-time CAD techs at your...
2 full-time CAD engineers, we call them, for better lack of terms, that they do all of our programming and our nesting for our CNC machines.
Yeah. So that kind of speaks to that. You were saying, nowadays with it being such a manufacturing-based operation in the shops, like you really have to move into that realm of having CAD and having whether it be CAD or another design system.
Yeah, to have a competitive edge in the industry now, where it's if you're not automated or if you're not in the process of becoming automated, it's going to be very difficult to take on larger projects. You can manage smaller projects without them, but if you're taking on the larger builds or multi-unit builds, you need to be essentially fully automated, especially 2021. With where technology is,
yeah, for sure. And then your install crews would be a totally separate group of employees, right? Like that's a kind of a trade or skill of its own, right? They're not
correct. Yeah, it's a little more troubleshooting when you're on site, because things are never as easy as you plan them to be. So you have to be pretty creative when you're doing installing. You have to be dealing with contractors and customers and other trades. So The installation crews are typically a little different than the manufacturing crews. They're pretty personable.
Yeah, yeah, the construction site workers. And you were mentioning earlier about how Section 6 of the spec, it's woodwork and it's all the architectural woodwork, but a lot of times a lot of other stuff gets thrown in there too, right? So it's not like you're just dealing with wood products. Like there's stainless steel and anything that kind of ties in with the.
Exactly. So yeah, the Section 6 is architectural woodworking is the 62, 6400. But again, they're miscellaneous metals, acrylics, glass, anything that's touching millwork essentially will get put into our section for us to figure out. So it makes bidding a job a lot more challenging because it's not just build these cabinets. It's build these cabinets with these acrylic display units and stainless steel countertops or quartz so we
solid surface is pretty popular, right?
Solid surface, acrylics and quartz are very trendy right now. It's the cost of acrylic and quartz have come down so much over the past 10 or 12 years. It's much more affordable for people to use in projects than where it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, so whenever you're doing a project with multiple countertops, or whether it be a kiosk or desks for offices and stuff, like you're ordering that raw material, you're in the shop, and you're including that in the phases of building the boxes, building the.
So if it's a quartz product, we sub that out to another contractor that would do all those things there. Yeah. The acrylics we bring in house, and then we can cut and work ourselves.
Right.
But the acrylics are becoming more of a standard than the quartz are. I don't know if it's just the look or the trend, but there seems to be less quartz right now at the moment,
right,
and more acrylics. So,
and when you say trend, like a lot of times that means whatever is currently popular in the architecture side of whatever's being spec'd is basically.
Yeah, the designers, the architects, the design community, they dictate what we are using. We don't typically get to pick what we want to use, so they typically dictate what product we're using or material that we're using. So it's whether it's the durability or cost or just the fashion look that they're going for. They determine how they want this product to work.
Right, and then if it's something that is maybe really tough to acquire due to lead time, or even during the pandemic now with supply chain, like you could mention an alternate or something that might look similar.
Yeah, sometimes they have a product in mind that comes from Europe, and of course right now it's going to be very difficult to get. So we'll make some recommendations. A, it'll cost this much less, and B, it's this much more readily available. And typically they're receptive to those changes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're not, which is fine. There's just an additional cost to using those items.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk just a little bit more about the shop operations. Like as far as like what your shop looks like, you have like 2 edge banders, 2 time savers, 2 CNC machines. Like what's the shop consist of?
Yeah, so we have 2 CNCs, 1 edge bander, and then we kind of have like an assembly line type of operation where we'll come from the edge bander, from the CNC being cut to the edge bander to manufacturing, and then back either into finishing or out the door.
Is there a spray booth in part of your operation?
There is a spray booth that's part of it as well.
So that's a whole other arena there.
It's
a pretty important, pretty vital part of the process.
Yeah, there's a lot. We can do a lot of finished product. Either it's wall cladding or ceiling cladding, or sometimes it's just cabinetry itself that has a finish on it. So there's definitely a large market that involves finishing. Yeah,
and is it typically like a similar finish on most of the products, like a 3-coat clear coat, or is there like orange peel or different things?
Yeah, there's different. They specify sometimes they want a stain finish, and for any of the larger projects we do with a ceiling detail, it has to be a fire rated coating finish on it, which is another extra additional steps that add to the process.
Right.
Time consuming, it's much more expensive, but it's a building code that they need to have.
What about low VOCs on the same?
That's a bit of a less concern now. Yeah. It seems because everything is typically off-gassed for days in our factories before they get to site. So
Right,
the VOCs are typically, and I think the standard for VOCs that the product manufacturers provide are all pretty low VOCs now. So.
Yeah, and that's part of your operation anyway, to leave it on site, let it off gas, and then it goes to, yeah. I've always found it interesting, there's the supply chain dynamic in your industry, like from forest to the sawmill, where it gets milled and kiln dried and all the different steps, and then, it gets to a retail place like East Coast Specialty Hardwoods, as you guys use in your supply chain. So you guys will order flat stock of the different species and stuff, but in that retail store, in that phase of the supply chain, you could say they're milling because they're sanding it to 80 or 120 grit or whatever they give it to you at, but then you take it and you're milling lumber in your shop too, and then prefabbing it and actually building with the product that came from the forest along those different lines. So
yeah, so we purchase most of our hardwood pre-milled to the specifications that we need.
Right.
Some other millwork companies have their own mill shops that they will plane their own lumber to dimensionally to what they need. We just don't have the space to do that, so we purchase our lumber essentially pre-milled. There are some jobs that we bring in just rough lumber and do the manufacturing ourselves. If we're doing things like butcher block tops for bars or restaurants or even some retail environments have them. Yeah. We'll make those ourselves. So we'd bring in the rough lumber and mill it and do it ourselves. And then for the sheet goods, same thing. It's all the sheet goods come in just in 4x8 or 4x10 sheets, coming from one of the different mills throughout Atlantic Canada, more in Ontario, Quebec based. And then we manufacture from there. So there's a lot of different products that we pull from.
Yeah, and tons of different veneer plywoods and.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, Columbia Forest Products is the big plywood provider.
Okay.
They're probably the kind of the industry standard.
Yeah.
For what they can offer essentially anything we need.
Right.
So we typically pull from them. Not trying to plug one company over the other, but
yeah. Well, we like to give some companies a few shout outs on the show, so that's fine. What about we chatted a little bit earlier about FSC and just kind of the role that it plays in companies like yourself in this industry, and obviously FSC is forest certified, and it's basically governing the supply chain, that things are being done properly and good practice for sustainability and that kind of thing. So you guys are FSC certified, or you're doing FSC projects, but that doesn't mean that you have to be FSC certified as a company, right?
Correct. We were FSC certified for about 6 years, and then we actually let our membership lapse in the fall of 2019 for the sole reason of there was not enough projects that required you to have your FSC certification as a manufacturer. Instead, you could use FSC certified materials, but not have the COC, which is chain of command, which means that you run from purchasing material that's FSC certified all the way through the installation of the product. Right. So every person that touches that material has to be FSC certified company.
Right.
But that standard has not been enforced by the design community to make us have the need to have that certification.
The certification as a...
So we let certification lapse. We can still take on FSC certified projects. Just they're not what they call it COC all the way through. So they're I think they meant well in the process of introducing the FSC certification, but there's just not enough projects or architects that wanted to have it to necessitate keeping the certification.
Right. That makes sense, because they're still out there. I mean, you see still lots of projects throughout the year that are requiring FSC, but it's not like every week,
No, and historically I think we had it for 5 or 6 years. We did maybe 4 or 5 projects in that amount of time that required it. So it was an expense that, and it's a fair bit of work to keep your certification. that it just didn't make sense to keep anymore. So we let it lapse, and haven't really had any ill effect from letting it pass.
Right. And because it's so in line with sustainability and carbon footprint and whatnot, you see it a lot on like the Dow campus, for example. If it's a lead project, it's going to be FSC, but that's not like those are happening, 5 times a year. There might be a couple a year, one a year or something.
Yeah,
like that.
the universities are the ones that the government and the universities are typically the ones that may come across still wanting to have it. But again, we haven't seen it very often.
Definitely want to ask you about the current state of the pricing of materials. I think that's been a big topic. A lot of friends I've been talking to lately have been talking about lumber and 2x4s costing about 4 times right now what they have been in the past, even just before the pandemic hit, and plywood is double the cost. And what's the state of your oak and maple and walnut board foot pricing for right now? I'm sure it's climbed the ladder a little bit.
It has, and it's supply and demand, which drives anything. Currently, pricing is up marginally, but I mean, every year there's always a few points it goes up. Availability for some products can be very difficult right now to get. MDF is one of them. There was a fire in one of their plants a while ago that has just created a...
So where would this plant be that year? Somewhere in North America?
Yeah, somewhere in North America, somewhere in the U.S. I can't remember exactly where it was,
right.
Which has just cut out a very large supply option. So now the other mills have to try to pick up that, which supply and demand, they can increase their cost.
Yeah.
And with the current state of especially in the U.S. with the pandemic occurring, everyone is not traveling, they're not going here and there, so they're staying home and doing all their own home projects. So all of a sudden now there's a major surge of building materials to the majority of the United States.
Non-commercial.
Correct. Which is pulling from the commercial supply, which increases the cost of our product that we need to get.
So what's the board foot cost of walnut right now? Is it like $13-$14?
Yeah, probably higher. Probably like 16, 17.
Wasn't that long ago that it was $8, wasn't it? Like a few years ago it was $8.
Yeah, but I mean, like some of the exotic wood, and I could be wrong on that pricing. I don't.
It's not like it's all in your head every day.
No, I don't claim to be a hardwood pricing specialist. It has gone up, but like the exotic woods anyway have gone up over the years in price, and they're very, very volatile market. It can be up or down based on so again, supply and demand. So
yeah, I guess I have walnut in my head because I enjoy woodworking and furniture and stuff, and just in the past I've used a lot of walnut, just like the look of it. But on the topic of materials for hardwoods, like what would there be, like 6 to 8 different species that mostly you guys are ordering for a lot of projects, like red oak, white maple, like things like that you could just chat about for a second?
Yeah, typically white oak is the hot commodity right now.
Architects seem to be speccing that a lot.
The designer, the architect community are on a high of that right now, which is trending, which is common. Something will peak for a couple of years and then it'll move to the wayside. Typically like white oaks, red oaks, maples, cedar for doing anything exterior, pine every once in a while. There'll be a big run of pine.
Right.
But typically it's the 4 or 5 typical ones that we get into. It's not too often we get into too much of the exotic stuff.
Yeah.
Just because typically we do larger commercial projects where they don't have small amounts of those introduced into.
And that's mostly what your volume is the large commercial.
Correct.
But you do some bars and smaller like restaurant, like they can be pretty creative. And like I know you guys did is it the Agricola Brasserie? Am I saying that right?
Correct. Yeah,
the
Agricola
North
Street
End.
Brasserie.
That place is awesome. So you guys did the sliding stairs and the wine rack and the whole bar.
Yeah, so that kind of gives a caption of more than millwork that our industry has to do, where we had to do the steel cages and the sliding, ladder and all the components of it, and upholstery for all the benches that gets included into.
Right. So you guys, you guys are doing upholstery in the shop too when you have to, right?
Yeah. Well, we sub that out, so we don't do it in house. Okay. We purchase from another manufacturer that does it for us. Yeah. So it kind of that's like a caption of what type of different products we get into.
Yeah. Is there what's the bar top there? Is it live edge, or is it something non-wood? Is it stainless steel?
Don't remember. I know. It's wood, I believe.
We can throw some pictures up as we're talking, like after he can edit them.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it's a red oak
Okay.
block top.
Right.
Without seeing it, I couldn't be for sure which.
Have you guys done a fair bit of live edge tabletops for bars? And like, I mean, you must have done a few. It seems to be pretty trendy too, especially in the city. Every bar I go to seems to have a live edge tabletop.
We have not done a lot. I don't think for any other reason, but it's just some of the projects that we get involved in, they just don't have them in there.
Yeah,
I think it's it's quite expensive for live edge. So I think it's probably the smaller-ish bars that have a piece of it here and there.
Right. That makes sense.
Which therefore the owners could buy directly sometimes. So we don't get involved in it too often. We've done a few of them, but not a great deal.
Okay. Since we're chatting about some projects that Provincial has done, you guys did Alderney Gate, right? Is all that slat? Is that you guys?
Yep.
What's that? Is that oak?
That is white oak.
White oak.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that is that has the fire rate coating that we were speaking of early on it as well.
Okay.
So that's a building code that they need to have for
public.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a ton of it in there. That must be just a couple of years ago, right? That you guys
that's probably 3 years ago. And then there's Aspen Sportsplex in Dartmouth. They have all the same similar wood slat detail, but I believe that's in maple or red oak.
Yeah. Is that a open slat or is there like a backer piece? Is there a felt
There's
backer?
a batten along the back of it.
Okay, just for a backdrop.
That keeps them together. And
Okay.
then some projects have like a black batten behind it, so like an acoustical value to it.
Did you guys do the fitness center at Dell? Was that your?
We did, yes.
Because I think that had a black felt.
That was taken. Yes, so there is a whole slatted component.
There is
with that as well. That was not part of our scope. That was in a different.
Sometimes it's not, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But you guys do manufacture slat when you can. Yeah,
absolutely.
No, Alderney Gate looks great. And fin bars, did you guys do that?
We did. We did the one in Bedford. The one in Quail Harbor was done prior by another millwork contractor.
Right.
We've done fin bars. Yeah, we've done like Boston Pizza renovations. We've done quite a few commercial like restaurant units as well.
Yeah, I seen on your website as well, which is www.provincialwoodworkers.com, right?
.com, yep.
Yeah. You guys did some glass partition frames at TD Bank, and I thought that was pretty neat because a lot of times you'll see the banks and lawyer offices. Large kind of corporate fit ups, even just down here at the Queen's Mark, where they have a couple of office fit ups that are being tendered out now to some large corporations. There's always these big interior glass partitions, and a lot of times it's aluminum frames, aluminum bat, and all kinds of different interior glazing partitions. But you guys made the frames out of TD Bank job,
which is more common now. Yeah. A lot of accounting firms, law firms, banks, they have a wood glazing system, door frames, and things like that. So we typically would build everything. The door frames with the glazing frames, the glass and stuff would be by the glass.
Right. So you're just making the rails and styles there, kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is quite common though. Like say banks, architectural law firms, and accounting firms and such like that.
Nice. St. Margaret's Parish, was that on your website too?
Yeah, St.
How
Margaret's.
long ago was that?
That would have been probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
That was a little while ago.
Yeah. Any memories on that one? Was that a memorable
That
project?
one did. It had some interesting acoustical panels that were sculpted MDF that tied together to kind of give a acoustical feel, but it's like an oceany look to it. It was different. It was definitely very different. Yeah. For a church setting. It was pretty unique.
Yeah, right. Just on that topic, any other projects like in the past, like with your long history with Provincial Woodworkers that kind of stand out? I mean, I know you guys have done tons of jobs around the city, whether it be large condo retrofits where it's basically you're doing kitchen after kitchen, but any jobs where kind of stand out with some kind of exotic wood that was needed, or just
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, the multi units that we get involved with are pretty cookie cutter.
Yeah.
They're 200 kitchens the exact same.
Yeah.
It gets pretty monotonous, pretty boring, pretty quick. But like the Zaspen Sportsplex, there was a whole solid surface, which is acrylic railing system that ran through it, which was pretty unique. First time we've done really one of those.
did the railing have a profile that was curved or anything like that?
No, it was all squared. It was all
Right.
squared
Well,
off.
that's
But
a good thing.
Yeah, it was an open stairwell concept with both. I think it was 2 or 3 stories that had the railing running down through. So it was a different project.
Yeah.
We've done a desk as well. I think it's either on our Instagram page or on our website. Over at Suncell, which is a business in Burnside that has 7 or 8 different angles that angle from the front of the desk back, which is made out of all Corian as well, out of acrylics. So we've done some different neat, unique projects like that.
So the guys in the shop really have to show up those days on the shop floor with their game face.
They do, between them and the AutoCAD guys who will
Yeah.
do as much of the lag work as they can to cut the pieces for them. But there's sometimes it's a lot of head scratching and problem solving on the fly.
Yeah, no, I've always found it impressive with some of the stuff that you guys are able to do with the design and specs that you're given, and basically being the one that has to kind of, pull it together, make it work. And then, you're using materials that are not cheap. So it's not like there's a lot of room for human error, and just a lot of collaboration between your CAD guys, your design guys, your guys on the floor, guys running the machine.
Sometimes, we'll see things on paper, which is easy for you or I to look at on paper and like, oh, this is how you would build this. But then actually building it is a whole other thing. So sometimes I'll see it and I'll see the finished product afterwards, and I'll be like, wow, we built that? That's impressive. That's well done.
Awesome. Just looking ahead, Matt, obviously construction is extremely busy in Halifax and in all 4 Atlantic provinces. PEI is extremely busy. Things are still happening in Newfoundland and New Brunswick as well. I kind of wanted to bring up the new art center. I know that's obviously it's getting a lot of attention right now with the design competition and Omar Gandhi and KPMB and just all the provincial government and federal government funding, and it's a really unique design. It's got I think in the shape of an eel. Really, the design is really related with the Mi'kmaq community and that culture. And can you speak on that? Or I know you've been hearing lots about it, and there's been changes already. But I think that would be one that you guys would really be looking forward to bidding on.
The theme of that is I have to think it's going to have a heavy architectural woodworking component inside, either through wall cladding or different wood pieces or mural pieces, or there's going to be, I think it's an exciting project to come out. I mean, these are not ones that come across our desk once every 10 years. You'll have a project that like this that's available. So it's going to be an exciting project, and there's only going to be so many local companies that are going to be interested in bidding on a project of that size. We would definitely be one. There's 2 or 3 others,
and for sure you'll have probably a few companies from Central Canada or others looking at a job like that.
Yeah, it's going to draw attention from abroad.
Attention.
Absolutely. Just again, it's one of those once in every decade type projects that you're going to see.
And I think for you guys in house, like you'd really be pulling together as a team and trying to get. Thinking about that back of mind, like before the tender comes out. I think they say they're breaking ground in fall of 2021. They want it completed by 2025. So that's so it's not far off. And obviously, it's great to see local contractors involved when such a showpiece project is happening in Atlantic Canada. So
yeah,
I'm excited for you guys. And
that's going to be one that's going to be, that's going to be all hands on deck to even tackle the design pricing part of a project that size, which can could take a month of work
for sure
to price it. So you put in a lot of heart and a lot of attention, a lot of time, and then in the end, if you're not successful in doing it, it's a lot. It can be defeating. It's like that was a lot of effort, energy for for nothing, but it's part of the process. So
Are you guys engaged with that process yet? There's no tender
No.
released yet. It's early yet, but you're aware of anything specific that's happening inside with the architectural wood.
there's
spec.
nothing.
It's
there's
nothing out
yet.
yet. Yeah, but we know from what we've heard and from the architects and stuff that things are going to be for architectural woodwork. It's definitely going to be
Fingers crossed. Our fingers are crossed that it.
Yeah.
That they do. I think they will.
Yeah. Anything else as far as like what are the big projects you guys are on site now installing, or said you're in Newfoundland on a couple of jobs as well?
Yeah, we're doing a few long-term
Brunswick.
care facilities in Newfoundland, in central Newfoundland, hospital up in northern New Brunswick.
Okay.
Always have some multi-units that are on the go. Car dealership in St. John's. So we have a few things abroad, which makes for challenges with travel restrictions currently. But outside that, I mean, we're doing a large project with Dalhousie, the Dal Art Center, the Rebecca Cohen. They're redoing that and adding a piece onto the back of it.
Are you in the reno and the addition?
We are. Well,
Okay.
yeah, so there's two different parts of it.
Yeah.
We're doing both those, which are scheduled to be kind of underway this summer. I think their completion is for January of 2022.
What's in the millwork package around the new stage in the Rebecca Cohen? Is there a lot of sound baffles?
There's a
and things
lot
like
of
that?
acoustical components to that. Ceiling panels, like finned walls that.
Well, they have the two finned walls on both sides of the stage, right, where
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of the entry from in back, and
Yeah, and they continue that into the new part, and there's
Right.
like a curved ceiling acoustical panels that
you guys are manufacturing those
we are
too.
manufacturing.
Yeah, and you install those, right? You do the suspension and everything.
Correct. Yeah. So right now we're in the shop drawing the phase of it. Should be completed that probably in the next month or so. And I believe construction for that is scheduled to start for us over the summer.
Right. That's with Ellis Don, correct?
That is with Elson. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's another art center right there. I mean, it's not like those come around that often too. So that's a great mention there. You guys are in there. And that you got both because they were separate packages. So obviously you guys had your estimating team on the ball with those two.
Yeah, it was an interesting product. It was very different. So it I don't know, it may scared some people away from looking at it, but it was definitely be curious to see when it's finished. It'd be nice to have a look and
It'd be a nice showpiece for you guys
definitely.
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like you guys are really busy. So you said sometimes, and this may be because of the pandemic, maybe for other reasons, but you do sometimes sub out your install.
Yeah. So anytime jobs we have, like say in Newfoundland, obviously we're have to sub that out because we're not able to send employees over there.
Yeah.
We'll sub that out. But sometimes if we're into larger projects, we can't handle the load with multiple different projects happening at the same time. So we'll sub out a good portion of what we need to through we have different contacts that we use that we can hire to bring on with us.
Yeah. I want to congratulate you, Matt, you're currently the vice president of ALMAC, the Architectural Woodwork Manufacturers Association of Canada. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
And you will be the new president in the near future. Is that correct?
Yeah. In June, I'll be the incoming president in June. Yeah.
Of the Atlantic chapter.
Correct. Yeah.
Which I think there's 8 chapters across Canada or something like that.
That sounds right.
Only because I checked the website this morning.
Perfect.
Yeah, congrats on that, because I think we were chatting earlier, and ALMAC is basically Canada's quality assurance. I think that would be a good mission statement. I forget what exactly. Well, I'll let you.
Yeah, so it's ALMAC is essentially the woodworking standards that us manufacturers have to abide by.
Best practice.
In order to ensure quality for the final end product that they're getting what they're paid for, or what they're paying for. I'm sorry. So it's quality control essentially is what ALMAC does, and ensures that they're getting the best product that they deserve to have.
Right, and they've got a 360 sort of perspective on the whole industry as well, where their ALMAC is. Right from the install to the designers and the architects to the manufacturers to the retail stores, the whole supply chain.
Correct.
Everything.
Yeah. So through ALMAC we offer a service called GIS, Guaranteed Inspection Service, which ensures that the millworker is doing his shop drawings to our standards. He's manufacturing to our standards and installing to our standards. And there's an inspection process throughout the way that's done by ALMAC. We have a inspector that will go and check in on all those. And that comes at a cost to the owner, but it kind of gives them peace of mind that they're getting what they're paying for, what they deserve.
So is it the owner's decision to spec ALMAC?
Typically, between the designer and the owner,
Right.
they would decide to have that as a GIS. So most architects will have a note on their drawings as saying built by ALMAC certified member. But they don't really enforce that all the time. But if they go through the guaranteed inspection service process, it's a little more security that they'll have to use a member of ALMAC. And there's not many millwork companies that are not a member of ALMAC now. There's a few, but we're always trying to work with them to get them on board with us. It's for their own benefit. There is an expense to it, yes, but it's a benefit that comes at a cost, but there's a value to it.
Yeah, especially in your industry, there's so much complexity with the materials, and it's such a highly aesthetic architectural side of things that just to have that extra governance of the quality assessment, the few site visits while it's being installed, and right from the initial get-go with CAD drawings and stuff.
Yeah, and it gives them, at the end, they get a certification that says it was a GIS certified project and it was inspected, and it gives them an additional year of warranty on their product. So they get value out of the service for sure. Yeah,
for sure. So as the upcoming president of ALMAC in Atlantic, Canada, you guys just recently did you do your AGM virtually? You were saying that
we did our
canceled
national,
it last year as well, right?
Yeah, so we just had our national AGM on February 25th, just last Thursday, from 2019, because trying to do anything virtually can be a challenge, and there was some red tape about having a virtual AGM because most boards don't have that as an option. You need to have so many people in quorum to meet the standards to do any voting. So it was a challenge. And of course, having an AGM in February of 2021 for 2019 is difficult because people have forgotten about 2019. That was the one. Life has changed a lot since then.
Certainly has.
So so that's and then our 2020 AGM was supposed to be in Toronto in June, but that has been postponed again.
And was that a national AGM?
That was our national AGM,
right.
correct, yeah.
And so do they have that in Toronto every year then?
It moves. It moves every year from each chapter.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So it's it was due to come back to Atlantic, Canada in 2023, I believe. But that's been postponed now for a few years at least.
Yeah.
So.
Crazy. Tell us about your football background. Tell me about the Minor Football Association.
So I was a part of the Dartmouth Destroyers Minor Football Association for quite a few years. Started off as coaching and then got onto the executive and was president for 3 years. And it's a volunteer position. It's a challenging role. You're dealing with we had 170 kids.
What ages are these kids?
These kids run from mites to bantam, so from 6 to 14.
Wow.
So it's quite a few different teams, a lot of moving parts, a lot of coaches, a lot of personnel. And then you're dealing with other associations. You're dealing with Football Nova Scotia, who's like the governing body that we all kind of report to. Yeah. They're kind of the overwatch and control. Like they create our schedules. They do a lot of work for us, but as a volunteer role, it's a fair bit of work. It's a fair bit of work.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Well, good on you for that. Football is such an amazing sport, and for the community engagement there. What are your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
It was good. I've been a lifelong Patriots fan.
Okay. Oh, no.
My youngest son is named Brady.
For that reason?
For that reason.
Okay, so die hard.
So I was pulling for him, of course, to win another. Part of me was kind of not pulling for him, wishing he would end his legacy in New England, but it's neither here nor there now. But now it was.
He took Gronk with him.
He did. The game itself wasn't overly entertaining.
It wasn't as good as I thought it would be.
The parade after was a little more
closer.
entertaining to watch. They were definitely indulging and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, Brady pretty much established himself as the all-time GOAT.
Yeah, I don't think
if he didn't have it before, he has it now.
There was not really a question before, but now it's pretty solidified.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Matt. Just in closing, online, where can people find Provincial Woodworkers? I know you have your website. I think you're on social media as well.
Yeah, so our website is provincialwoodworkers.com. On Instagram, and the same thing, Provincial Woodworkers Limited. That's about it. As I mentioned at the start of the podcast, there's not wearing many hats as a small business. There's it's not up to date all the time, but we try.
Yeah.
Every a few weeks we try to get some new posts up there, and we have a good relationship with the design community that will put us up in their posts. So give a follow and see some of the work we do.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Matt. Really appreciate your time. It's great chatting with you.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks a lot.